Welcome to the 15th episode of Why It's Awesome, the spoiler-free show where we attempt to take something often easily dismissed and explain why maybe you should give it a shot. The intention with this series is to help new fans find something that they'll enjoy that initially they might have passed over, or so that people who are already fans can pass this video on to their friends to persuade them to give the subject in question a go. This week I'll be looking at You're the Worst, a show that's recently announced its renewal for a third season because it's just too damn good not to have one. Now, this show hasn't gotten any requests for an episode dedicated to it on the channel, but I felt compelled to do an episode anyway because both it is an amazing series, although we'll get to that in a moment, but predominantly because I outright dismissed this show when it started. It's like this series has taught me nothing. So, why did I dismiss You're the Worst? Well, I typically don't enjoy romantic comedies, and the main characters are abysmally bad people. For those not in the know, You're the Worst is a show revolving around Jimmy and Gretchen, two equally selfish, nasty human beings who end up sleeping together in what both assumed was a one-night stand. Afterwards, they both start considering the idea of what would happen if they attempted to make it more than just a one-night thing. Obviously, everything gets more complicated and the show follows the fallout from that decision. From my description of the show, you would be forgiven for assuming that You're the Worst is precisely a romantic comedy. I feel like that's both a fair and unfair description of the show. It's fair as the show is technically a romantic comedy. After all, the primary distinguishing point of the show is a love plot between the two leads. However, at the same time, it is a completely unfair description of You're the Worst because of what that description implies. Outside of the main plot, the show has very little in common with what could be considered a romantic comedy, and it has more to offer than shows or movies that fall into that genre typically do. I see You're the Worst as more a character drama with the framing device of a romantic comedy. Let me further expand on that point by breaking down You're the Worst a bit, although don't worry guys, this is still spoiler-free territory. Well, as spoiler-free as possible when discussing a show. As I stated before, the characters are terrible human beings. They are self-centered, self-destructive, toxic people to be around, and the absolute last people who would be the leads in a romantic comedy. But, of course, that awfulness is the entire point. The show knows that by taking these two awful people who would vomit in disgust at the mere idea of being leads in a romantic comedy, and then making them leads in a romantic comedy, easily livens up every single cliche you've come to know, and if you're me, despise from rom-coms. Fresh, interesting, fun, new life is breathed into these situations that movie after movie after movie has just drilled into the ground via a perspective that, at least for me, I had never seen before. This show has much more going for it though than just a new spin on an old classic. The storytelling technique that really helps this show on so many levels is that it takes its characters and their emotions seriously. No matter the situation, what the characters are going through and how they are feeling are given the appropriate weight. Now that really shouldn't be something that I praise, but let's face it, far too many shows and movies, particularly in this genre, boil three-dimensional human beings down into one-dimensional cheap comic relief. Sidekicks there just to be the foil for the more interesting main character, or to come in with a snappy, usually sassy one-liner. None of that here. Feelings are treated like real things, and people are treated like real people. I mean, occasionally not by the characters themselves, because again, they're terrible, but by the show. The main supporting cast to Jimmy and Gretchen are all three-dimensional characters given ample screen time and development with their own likes, dislikes, motivations and lives. Because of this wonderful characterization, the laughs that come out of the show are all the funnier. I do not wish to do a disservice to You're the Worst by mainly focusing on the romantic and drama elements of the show and forego discussing the comedic side of it. However, when discussing comedy there is always that big, it's subjective elephant in the room. So, I will just say that I find the comedy to be very funny. The writing is very sharp and there are some fantastic one-liners scattered amongst the show. Outside of that, the show has some very fun ideas it likes to break out every once in a while that only helps to enhance the comedy surrounding it. I will briefly tangent off into some negative aspects of the show, what very little of it there is. I have found those that he has taken a few episodes to get into. The show is such an oddball mix of dark, sometimes unrelenting cynicism and genuine honest human emotion that it can take a little while to fully get the show. Similarly, spending time with these characters does eventually reveal hidden depth and emotion, but at the start they can be very unappealing, in particularly Jimmy, who in the first few episodes I found to be almost completely unlikable. Even taking into account those minor flaws, I see You're the Worst as a classic in the making, especially when the show hits its second season and takes some very daring leaps and portrays certain aspects of its characters in ways that I have never seen done better. There are plenty of comedies on TV right now whose entire focus is on making the audience laugh at any cost. Characterization and real human moments be damned. You're the Worst is one of those amazing shows that doesn't give up on its characters just for a laugh. You're getting a comedy and a drama in equal measures here, and it is all the more compelling and satisfying for it. I am very happy I gave this one a shot, and it may just be worth your time as well. And that's it for another episode. So what did you think? Did you enjoy this video? Let me know with a like, and if you'd like to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Is there something that you love that other people just don't seem to get that you might want me to look into and make a video about? Let me know in the comments. And while you're there, what do you think about You're the Worst? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? And why? What is it about the show that makes you feel that way? Leave a comment to start a discussion, and as always, thank you for watching.